Us pay attention. Holy shit, folks.
Well, we're
Oh,
late.
maybe I demonetize this by saying that. Folks, hello and welcome to Talking Crit. I am half of your host, half half of your host, half of your host, Eric
The better
Tenkar.
half.
I don't know about the better half. With me, as always, on Wednesday nights is none other than Bad Mike Battolato, my once a week work spouse.
If you notice, there's no one below us or above us, for that matter,
Nobody.
because the summer you call people up and they go, "Hey, remember you wanted to be on the show? Oh yeah, but I got a vacation with yada yada, or I got to go to whatever." So, but coming up next week we do have Lewis Hoffer, who is Luau Lou, who is Dandelion Games, awesome dude, and he was. I said, "Hey, want to be able to show talk about stuff?" Oh yeah, we could talk about. And he literally gave me like a whole paragraph stuff to talk about. I'm like, we can talk about all that. That's awesome. Yeah. And also I have a Kickstarter coming. Like, oh, we'll talk about all that stuff. So Lou is awesome. He is a great dude to talk to. And then July 12th we have Joe Block. And then I got to find somebody for July 5th, which I think is going to be a tough one because it's right after the holidays. We got to find somebody that didn't go to the lake for July 4th, which is me because I'm not going anywhere. So
no, I actually I think I got a doctor's appointment July 5th, so I'll be around. So
I'm dog sitting for my daughter and son-in-law, so I'll be home all through July dog sitting. I can't go anywhere. My wife's going to Minneapolis. She's got a fun trip planned in July, and not me though. No, I just hopefully it'd be nice and cool there. So no, I'm stuck here. So I'll look for some other poor sad soul that's stuck here on July 5th too, and we'll rope that sad soul in to appear with us. So I don't know. What are we going to talk about? So we don't have a special guest. I mean, we have nothing to talk about. There's no gaming information. There's nothing going on. This is a very special episode. We're two very special people. Very special.
We're hunting rabbits. I want to make a few quick general announcements. There are some hotline numbers on the bottom. I put up two of these three numbers last Saturday because we were discussing issues about dealing with and coping with stress. And I actually had three people PM me and thank me for these numbers. Not necessarily because they needed them directly themselves, but they were helpful for people in their family. So I think what I'm going to try to do when I can remember is to make sure these numbers are up at least for part of the live streams. They're important numbers. Take them down. If not for you, maybe somebody in your life, in your circles, it's help when needed. That's number one. Number two, I think I need to remind people of this because there's this right now we're dealing in a very politicized world, and when it becomes politicized. Politicized. There we go. I am suffering from. I don't know. I probably shouldn't even say it, but in any case, we are getting to the point where people throw out half truths, complete lies, and then like by the time the lie goes around the world, everybody goes, "Oh yeah." So I want to just mention something real briefly. Mike and I do not get paid for any of the companies, the games, the guests. We do this shit for free, gratis. If you're helping out the channel, you're using the affiliate links that I often put up on the videos. That helps. But we're not sponsored. We aren't taking money under the table. We're not taking money over the table. So if we talk about stuff, it's because we like it or we don't like it. But we find it interesting and it's generally newsworthy, I guess.
I wanted to. There's a couple of things I want to bring up. We'll get to Renegade Press in a little bit because I want to talk about that a little bit. But I think it's funny that you had posted this week and last week about how the gaming community is making battle lines. Okay, you're over here, you're over here, yeah. And we're going to have our own little wall community over here. We got our wall community, which is fine. If you want to wall, that's great. Do your little wall communities. That you're not going to grow past a certain point, but it's good. You won't have to hear anybody else talk about anything else. But the one thing I saw pop up on a couple of groups is that somehow people. So there's this big thing going on. Like, man, Tenkar's got a mole in our group, and I've seen this in a couple groups. And so, um, do we have like a confidential informants that we pay cash
No,
to
no.
join groups? Isn't that what a mole is? It's like you have to like kind of pay
All
them
right,
or
all right.
or
So here, let me let me lay this out for you, folks, just so those of you who are a little confused. Um, for a while there, and I'm going to name this individual because he's certainly happy enough to name me, Dave Nighthawk, Night, Dave Hawk, David Simpson, Dave
10
Simpson,
different
David Nighthawk Simpson.
yes. Mhm.
He's got 4, 5, 6 variations of these names that he uses. And at one point, I guess like 4 of them were in the tavern because it was like playing whack a mole. Because Dave would intentionally comment or make posts that violated the rules of the tavern because I got another account banned. This is what I'm like reading on fucking Facebook. So I did a little digging, and Dave, who certain has his own political leanings, had his alts in groups that were opposite of his political leanings. Then I had somebody else, and they might get butthurt if I mention them, okay? Because
And
they
why
have
give
a
them? Please don't give them any free publicity either.
no, but
I
they
don't
have a
care.
they have a real uh, engorged heart on for me. Excuse me, anybody with young children,
Interesting
and
picture there. Okay.
huh. So a lot of times the whisper network is often perceived to be mostly on the left because those are the left is usually the one that talks about like oh, we gotta like get this guy removed from gaming. No, the right doesn't do that normally. At least it didn't used to, but now
Yeah.
both sides are doing all this stuff. It's amazing. But I'm getting PMs from this individual who's saying to me, "Oh, I have an alt in this conservative group, and this is the shit they're talking about you." And he goes, I think you might be. I think you are moderate conservative, but that's okay because this individual is extreme left. That was his perspective of me. But you should know what people are saying about you. Now, that's not a mole. That's not somebody I'm paying. This is somebody who's telling me what's going on in one political arena because he's looking to stir shit.
Right.
Right?
Right. Yeah. They want to get everybody all. They want you. It's the old trick that sports reporters used to do. So they would go to Larry Bird and say, "Boy, did you hear what Magic said about you, man? He said that you can't play and
Yeah.
you're a white stiff and this and that." And so Bird would say something, and then they go to Magic. Magic, did you hear what Bird said about you, dude? I mean, he just he went on and on, and so they would build up these false controversies with these guys. And I think half the time the athlete was having fun with it because they're like, okay, we know what you're doing. But they thought they were being real sneaky and smart by, oh, we're going to go to this guy and tell him this other guy says this, and we're going to go to this guy and he says this. And
So
they would build this big
he's
artificial controversy.
certainly a pot stirrer. However, I will say this: the vast majority of people who share information with me, which I do not request, I did not ask for, all right, they share it with me because what they see upsets them, and it's usually like, hey, they're attacking you in this walled garden closed group that you don't have access to. They're talking shit about you, and some people believe the shit they're talking,
Right.
and you should know about it. And I appreciate that, but nobody's getting paid. And I'm honest when I tell these little groups on the left and these little groups on the right, if you think your walled garden is secured, I'll go back in history here. Stacy Delaforno, she had her walled garden where she would talk shit about people. She would pontificate often about me, a few other choice people, and
Mm-hmm.
her walled garden was probably half filled with people who were just there because they wanted to know who she was talking shit about so they could tell the people she was talking shit about, hey, this is being talked about you in a walled garden. And she was very upset that people would violate her walled garden and let anything out from behind it. Nothing is private on the internet unless it's a conversation between you and one other, and maybe not even that. But if you think that you are in a Facebook group uh, that has open enrollment, where anybody can click a button and join, um, that you actually have a secure group, you're out of your fucking mind. And for these people to talk shit about anybody, me or otherwise, and to think it stays private, I
Yeah.
don't need a mole. I don't need to pay somebody. These people do it because they are disturbed by what they're seeing.
I mean, and yeah, so I think some want to start shit, obviously,
Oh yeah,
and some are like, hey, you know what they're saying about you, but it all look. There's a reason nobody cares whatever happened to Stacey D anymore, and nobody talks about her and her effect on gaming is zilcho, because she did get on those places and she did talk s about
yeah.
everyone, including her allies and friends, and so she just has at the end she had no friends, no allies, nobody. You know, it's like the earth been salted and Ozymandias statues in the desert. I mean, nobody talks about her anymore, knows, you know, because nobody liked her. And so that's what happens to these people is that when they when you think you're on a private channel talking to your friends, you're not. There's always somebody there that's going to go and you know either under a false name or maybe even a real name, and they're going to say, hey, did you hear what's his name said about you? It's just it's not private. So that almost makes me think that sometimes people do this on purpose. They say stuff about you because they're like, oh, this is going to get back to Tenkar, and Tenkar is going to do a show about it or you know a stream about it. And this, you know, I just think that they have to be really stupid not to think that people are going to hear what they're talking about and it's all going to come out. I just have, I can't believe people are that dumb.
Well, you know, it's the same mentality. All right, we're gonna go back 2 or 3 years when somebody got there was an argument going on in the tavern Facebook community, and it went from being an argument to being name calling, and then the name calling became name calling based
Mm-hmm.
on somebody's um, gender and
Mm-hmm.
their perceived gender. And I took offense at it because now, listen, this is no longer a discussion. This is no longer a disagreement. Now, this is you can't win a fucking argument. You've got to call people names and attack them. I removed the person from the group. Well, you know what Facebook did? Facebook gave them a 1 year timeout. I didn't report them.
Mm-hmm.
But all of a sudden, I'm again
You the
being
bad
shown.
guy. You the bad guy.
I
Yeah.
am being shown by somebody else that in some other group, this person came back with a new identity and was bitching and complaining that Tenkar banned him from the internet for saying bad things about a transgender individual. And you know what? Your actions take care of yourself. But if you think that I have that much power to ban you from the internet, uh,
More powerful
okay,
than I
boomer.
thought.
No, I mean it's a great power to have. I don't have that power. Okay, I
Yeah, if
sincerely
there
don't.
is, I've got a list of people I'd like you to ban for me. If you do have that power, I mean, I'm just you know, I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know if you do or not, but if you do, I got a long list here. So
Oh,
uh,
I do like Tom's comment. Benjamin Franklin said, "We can keep a secret if two of them are dead."
yeah, very true. Everything gets out and everybody knows stuff, so it's not a secret. So I just wanted to comment on that. I think that's funny that now you're so feared that you have moles everywhere. It's
I've
like you know
got
you're
moles.
you know when you're a cop, you had your confidential informant that you had to pay, so you've got these moles. And Eric, man, I got some news, but man, I need like $20. Can you
Well,
send me some money? Like, oh, okay, I'll PayPal you. Well, I gotta have it right now, man, because you know I gotta fix it. I mean, you know, it's just this really seedy picture of you paying
but
off
but
these moles
but
to you know
but
tell
Mike,
you inside
here's
information.
here's the big secret about undercover about your informants. Okay, the big secret about informants are the ones that are not motivated by
Mm-hmm.
money or drugs. They are motivated by some other reason. Usually, it's revenge to get on somebody. So you that's an easier motivation because it doesn't require you to grease a palm. So these people, most of the people that tell me stuff, are telling me stuff because either they feel a loyalty to me, or they feel a disloyalty to somebody else, or they're upset by what they see,
Mm-hmm.
or they're shit stirrers. I mean,
Oh,
listen, I'm sure there's a percentage of that too. But
well, I remember asking you once, because you did IA for a while,
yeah.
and I said, "Where did you get all your information?" You said ex-wives,
Oh my
and
god.
because they're not motivated by money, they just want to stick the guy, just stick a fork in him and
I,
turn it a
I
little bit.
mean, in our for my last 6 months, I was a supervisor in our command center, and that phone, if there were the complaints against active officers from their exes, their soon-to-be exes, their ex-girlfriends, somebody that or their ex-boyfriend, somebody that
Hmm.
was spurned. Oh my god! Now,
Oh
how
yeah.
accurate was that? Listen, the accuracy of a screenshot is one thing. The accuracy of a woman scorned who's making accusations is,
Hmm.
you know,
That's why you have to investigate, though, right? Because you're like,
yes,
okay, we got to report that this guy's taking bribes from the local deli, but it's his ex-wife. So
uh,
who knows?
so people can park in front of his place and not get tickets.
Right, right. So we got to figure out what's going on here. So I'm sure that kept you busy. But yeah, I find that in real. That's pretty much the same in real life. I mean, people will, that yes, they are motivated by money to a certain extent, but it's really more personal on a personal level with most of them.
Right?
You know,
Yeah.
I, I'm gonna, and then most of the time I'm gonna stick it to this guy that I don't like.
Oh
I'm
God.
really gonna stick it to him.
Yeah. How much? That's why. Listen, when I was talking about this schism, and I say this schism, this movement, this polarizing of our community. I was doing it in a video earlier this week. I called it religious, right? I said this is like a
Hmm.
religious movement on both sides because there are purity tests, right? If you don't pass the purity test, they cast you
Oh
out.
yeah, oh yeah.
If you are not in the in group, you're essentially an infidel. But if you were in the in group and you left because you went, holy shit, these people are fucking crazy, now you're essentially a heretic. It's amazing. It really is. It is
It,
like the religion of the new age.
it's not, but this is not new. I want to tell you a story. So back, I don't know, probably 2000. When did Facebook start? I can't remember. I don't know,
I don't know,
2010.
and I was late to
I don't know.
Facebook because I was like,
Maybe I might have been on some other
ooh,
forum, but I remember going on an online forum, and I think it was a collector's forum. It was a collector's forum, and it was live. It was a live thing, and so but it was only
uh,
text only messages. So I get on there, and maybe it was the old AOL. I don't know that would have been in the early '90s. This is past that. So anyway, I get on there, and there's a guy that I know from who's bought some stuff from me online, and they're like, "Hey man, we're on this D&D forum. This is awesome. Oh, it's good to meet you." Well, one good thing is, everybody in this forum, at least we're going to be able to agree that, the only version of D&D that anybody should be playing is first edition D&D, because that's the best one. That's the one that Gary wrote, this and that. And I said, oh, well, and so my group, we started out first edition, but when the second edition came, we switched over, and we've literally been playing since 1987, whatever, 1990, second edition D&D. Except when I go to cons, I like to play basic or Swords of Wizardry.
right.
But so that's whatever 30 years now. And so I said, oh well, my group, we actually switched to 2E. We prefer 2E, and then like silence, like he doesn't reply. And then next thing I know, he logs off, and then he blocks me.
Yeah.
Because he was like going on and on, like, oh man, first edition DD. I'm so glad we're on a forum that's all we're going to talk about. No, we don't have anybody else. And and I think at the time 3 was out too, because this must have been like maybe 2008, 2009, right in that range.
Right.
But it was just funny because it was like, oh, he plays 2E, boom, out, block, gone.
Well, you were a heretic. You left 1E to go to 2E. You
And
could
that
you
stuff was going on for a while. I mean, that the 1E 2E schism was real at the time. I mean, it was big
right.
because there wasn't all the versions there are now. So yeah, when everything switched from 1E to 2E, there was a huge schism, and you had a lot of the people said, oh, I'm never going to switch to 2. That's why they fired Gary, is because Gary didn't like. I mean, there's all these stories going around because we talked before about there was no knowledge back then. There was no
No.
internet. There was no social media. You didn't know what was happening. You just knew that, oh, all of a sudden Gary didn't work for TSR. I mean, nobody knew why. I didn't know why, and didn't find out later for like a decade later. So people were like, well, this is why they fired Gary, because he didn't want to do 2E and they wanted to do 2E to make money, and they fired Gary, which no, that's not why they did it. But I mean, that's just what the past for knowledge back then. Nobody knew anything. And so if you like 2E, you must hate Gary and you hate, old school D&D, which is my group was not the case. We played all the first edition modules. We just converted them to 2E at that point,
Right.
and we just liked 2E better. So it wasn't any kind of religious schism. It was just like, oh, well, this game seems to be easier to run. But with a lot of people, it was almost like religious. And then you go to the stores, and this happened between 2E and 3E too. You go to the stores, and they have these big, what they call gamer books, and you flip through it. These people write down their information plus their phone number. You call them and say, "Hey, I noticed you want to be in a Call of Cthulhu campaign. I'm getting a group together." And so you'd have these books, whatever, and the books would say stuff like, "No, absolutely no 2E," or which the difference between 1E and 2E is just infinitesimal. And then when 3E came out, you couldn't find anybody that played 1 or 2E for a long time. I mean, everybody had just jumped to, we're all going to play the newest, hottest thing, which is 3E. And so I remember my group, we met at a game store, and the owner said, "Look, I really don't like you guys meeting here because you don't play a current edition of the game and you're not buying anything." And so we had to guarantee him we would buy stuff. We used his tables at the store, right, because he was so locked into, okay, 3E is where it's at now. I mean, it's all 3E. And that was there was a big bias against, we couldn't find anybody to join our 1E or 2E campaigns. I mean, nobody. Everybody wanted to play 3E at the time. And so every edition that's come out, it's been this schism, and it's only gotten worse in the last few years because social media, unfortunately, has made everything worse in that regard, and that people can get on there and WotC's made things worse too. They stopped just trying to make good games. They started trying to make everybody their friend. Hey, we're not just going to put out some really good games. We're going to tell you that orcs are really black people, and the reason you want them to be evil is because you're racist, and you must have been racist back in 1980. And so we're going to,
and that's what amazes me is in high school we had black players in our group. None of us saw orcs as a cognate for black people. It was never, and it was never within any of our thoughts. I mean,
right?
There was one. Oh God, it was an expert adventure, which had some intelligent apes on the cover.
Oh, that was the classic Drums of Fire Mountain, which has a horribly weird cover of orcs that have green skin, but they have these afros. So it's really bad. It wouldn't fly now, and I don't think it would.
It shouldn't have flown back then.
It was a little squicky back then, even.
I remember seeing that at the Complete Strategist at the time, and I was like,
By the way, not black orcs though; these were green orcs.
All right.
So,
but they had the afros, and just kind of
they had afros and the bones, the nose, and all that.
Yeah, I think I don't.
But they're like out of a Tarzan movie from 1930 or something.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to work with my gaming group in college.
No.
It's not gonna pass muster. But I mean,
but that was the only thing I ever that didn't even really suggest that. Just it was trying to suggest these orcs are really primitive. They're cannibal, whatever trope, they're the old cannibal orcs that live on the island, and they have, they look, like I said, they look like bad guys out of some Tarzan movie from 1930. So just a really bad decision. By the way, that was put out by the TSR UK division. That wasn't even the American. That was the UK division, if I remember correctly.
Cal says his wife is fine with the cover. She's from Africa.
Oh well, what can I say? I guess that she has to be racist. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean that's what they would say, is that they're going to ignore everybody that says that I didn't think about that at all. Well, maybe you really did. You just didn't think you thought about it. Well,
right.
It's a huge circular argument. Yeah. No, nobody thought about that. No, nobody did. It's just one of those things they created false controversy to try to, make everybody happy. But instead of creating good games, unfortunately, that's what they've done for the last 2 or 3 years. And they haven't created good games. They've just tried to, we have flying apes that were slaves. Oh, we messed up on that one. Let's blame Steve Winter. He was an old guy that used to write back then. Oh, wait,
he won't remember what he wrote back then. He'll go along with
he doesn't know what he's talking about. So yeah, that's so it's silly, and that we gotten to this point. And it's weird that everybody in the world can contact everybody else in the world on social media, and because of that, now we're stratifying into even stricter groups, and we have even tougher, tougher methods of separating everybody. I mean, you have to pass. Look, I've been joining a lot of groups online, Facebook, the past week or so, just to see what other groups are saying, and a lot of times they'll have questions you have to answer. Like, okay, answer these 4 questions. It's just to get rid of spam bots, basically, because spam bots can't. I have that on the North Texas page, and the spam bots answer hilariously. They just answer yes or no because that's all they program the spam bots to do. Like, what's your favorite edition of D&D? Yes. When did you first start playing D&D? No. It's okay. Spam. But nowadays, people, they're not just asking questions for spam bots. They're like, are you an SJW? Do you, I mean, just, just, I'm saying, just ridiculous stuff. They're just trying to, and so you're like, okay, I know what's going on here. This isn't about getting spam bots. This is trying to find an ideological person that agrees. It's going to agree with this.
On the other side, you'll find the, do you agree with the statement ACAB? And if you go,
oh yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, that's always good. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So you're like, well, do I even want to join this group? Because I don't even want to click yes, no, maybe on this. I don't want to have anything to do with it. But so yeah, that it's very. But I don't really have a problem with that. If as a matter of fact, I think if you want to be in a walled garden, go ahead. I mean, just if you don't want to bother anybody else, I don't see any problem with that. I think that groups should stick with the groups they want to stick with. If you want to be in a group that celebrates whatever, go ahead.
I'm not disagreeing, but I remember when you join a Facebook group, and if your Facebook group says, I don't know, let's say original D&D gaming, right? And then you join it, and they ask you, do you believe in rainbows? Do you believe that X lives matter? Then it's like, well, what do these questions have to do with gaming? Now, if you say old school gaming for your friendly lefties or your righteous righties, then you know what you're in for, right?
Sure.
But when they don't label it as political, and you step in, and then it's all political, and these are the groups where, and I've seen this, people go, why are we talking about this? Isn't this a group about elf games?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, you're going to get banned because you're not part of it. I was like,
yeah, you're obviously, we sniffed you out, traitor. You should have known this wasn't a group just about old school D&D. It was a group about old school D&D plus all this other stuff that, and if there was any content in the groups that made it worthwhile to go to the groups, the problem is I've been sampling these groups the last week, and there's literally no content that makes any of these groups worth stumbling into. So, and that's I join groups for content. I want to see people that run I ran this certain module. They ran B2 Keep on the Borderlands, but I did this, which was different. Oh, I want to read this because this is interesting. I like B2 Keep on the Borderlands. Here's a list of magic items I created that are all they're non-weapons and they're very minor in what they do. And here's 20 of them. Oh, I want to see that list. That's the kind of stuff I join groups for, is content. And that's and there's certain Discords I'm on. I do the same thing for. There was one Discord just joined about hex crawls, which is really interesting because they give really good advice about setting up hex crawls. But those groups are there for every group out there. There's 10 that don't have any content. It's just posting about how we own the libs or how we own the right wingers. It's not there's no content in there. There's no content worth anything. I don't even mind live play sessions. Like, hey, I joined the Barrel Maze group. Why? Because people talk about going through Barrel Maze. I like to read how people go through Barrel Maze or Highfell or one of those Greg Gillespie modules. I like to hear that, so I'll read the whole playthrough. Here's what we did session 16. We went through here, there, and we went this barrel and this. The undead killed Fred the gnome, and so I read stuff like that. But so that's even useful to me. But for the most part, these groups just don't have. There's a lot of groups that have in their title, especially on Facebook, something about D&D, AD&D. OD&D, OSR, old school, whatever, and then you start reading them, and literally 75% of them are just absolutely useless. There's no There's just nothing in there that makes any difference, or and I've been part of some of these groups for a week now, and I'm about to knock a few of them off my feed because it's just there's just nothing in there. That it's not worth having them on my feed just for the possibility somebody might say something ridiculous in there and I get to laugh at them. It's not even worth my time at that point. It's just clutter. It's cluttering up my feed with unnecessary stuff or memes and stuff that aren't funny or aren't interesting and don't really help me with my game. Yeah, I mean, I want something to make me. I want something that'll make me look at my game differently and say, "Oh, that's kind of cool. That's something I can do in my game." Awesome.
But what I find is those groups are the ones where gaming is not part of the conversation, except as an exception to the rule. It all becomes how can I signal how far right, how far left, and again, like you said, how can we find those that aren't conforming? How can we find the infidels that slipped into the cracks, thought they were joining a gaming group, and then they find out that it's a political group? It's like, I thought we were going to be talking about orcs. Oh, well, by saying orcs, you've already said
Little did you know, we sniffed you out, infidel.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a shame, and
I do feel sorry for some of those people because yes, you do see some people in there that are just they're just very excited to finally get back into D&D or gaming, and they join one of those groups. And the first thing that happens is they just get hammered because they're not with the program basically. So.
And Cal, the dietary bigots tell you not to eat X. I swear to God, I don't know how these people get into like every single group. Man, you can't eat tomatoes. You eat tomatoes, that stuff's gonna kill you 10 years early. It's like, what the fuck are we talking about? But and it's bizarre that that's my God, that is like a sub religion that's infiltrating communities. I don't even know where that one came from, but you are certainly there's not a lot, but man, they are vocal when you find them. Holy shit. They get stuck on your foot. But it's gonna get worse, folks. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, it's not even an election year yet. No. Next year's the election year. It'll be far, far worse next year. So look, I'm gonna look. Stay in your little walled garden. Just watch only our show. That's the only show you should be watching on YouTube. Watch our show. No, I'm just kidding.
Subscribe to the. I might still have the link here. Subscribe to the Tenkar's Tavern Substack. I try to get it out at least 3 times a month, sometimes 4, and it links all the friendly YouTube channels. But oh my God, do I even have a link? No, that's. I'll have to get a Substack link. Here it is. There we go.
There you go.
Where's the Substack link? There, we swapped it out. Go to the Substack, subscribe. Whether it's Joe Block's latest or Tabletop Taproom, Tom Farrell, Don Tomorrow starting up a new channel. There's a bunch of friends of the tavern who have channels in there. So once a week you get an update of what's going on and quick links. I don't get paid, so it's free.
What a terrible second job you had after retirement, Eric. This is
I know. I don't get paid for it. It's like, what the fuck?
I was going to say so, and also one more thing I wanted to add. I got in a discussion with a friend of mine on Facebook, and it went along the predictable lines of, man, why are people just so divided right now? Why is this going on? Look, this happens. Oh no, what they said was, why is our hobby so divisive compared to other hobbies? And I said, hobby. Hold on. Do you know other hobbies at all? Because let me tell you, you get people. I've heard of people that go to coin conventions and get in fistfights. I mean, any hobby. You're one of the big ones right now that's just cracking me up. Is look at all the people now that you have electric vehicles versus regular vehicles. Oh my God. Anytime you have anybody post a meme or talk about their car, somebody's got to say, oh my God, I love my Tesla more than anything. Then somebody's got to post, Elon Musk is a piece of shit. I hate Teslas. And then somebody's got to post, I hate electric cars. I hate them all because it just turns this gigantic fist fight on the internet. So, I mean, this is just electric cars. I mean, so everything you talk about, there's going to be this side, that side, whatever side. So it's nothing new. It hasn't just started. It's been going on for a while, and it's been going on in every hobby. It's not just. I had somebody point me to the Amiga computer community. Apparently, there is a schism in that community that is hardcore, and I couldn't tell you what the exact schism is built on, but I know that there are people who have threatened other people with death. In other words, I'm going to hunt you down and kill you because you like this brand of Amiga computer, and that's obviously not a superior
I
brand of this Amiga.
I think I put my toe in those waters once recently, and I think the schism, at least as I saw it, was those that use uh, actual classic Amigas from the time,
That's
and
yes,
those that use emulators to
yes,
emulate.
that is a
And
huge schism.
emulator
Oh my
is,
god.
oh my god, holy! You are
Yep.
using an emulator. That is not how God meant
Uh-huh.
an Amiga
Oh yeah.
system to be. Amiga systems ran the graphics in Babylon 5 in the first season. Do you not know that, heretic?
And they there's also a schism between people who, so apparently there is a illegal thing you can download into your Amiga computer that helps it run better and run different games, this and that. Well, there's a huge schism of people that use that because it helps them play more games, and people are like, no, your Amiga must remain pure. You cannot download this illegal bootleg software in a computer system that hasn't existed for 25 years because how dare you, sir? How dare you? And so
This is not
it's
how
just,
God meant Amigas
oh,
to work.
no.
If God meant Amigas to run those games, they would have run that out of the factory.
That's pretty much what, yeah, that's pretty much what you have. You have the heretics and the original people that, this is just the way it was meant to be, and how dare you bootleg. You don't own that game. You can't bootleg a game that hasn't been produced in 28 years and nobody knows where the creator of that game is and it doesn't exist anymore. How dare you bootleg that game? Who cares? So we say that, who cares, but I'm sure they look at our hobby and say, well, who cares?
Oh, who cares? Who cares about your PDFs?
Yeah,
And your
you have a rainbow unicorn in this one group. I don't. Why would you care? Well, because you don't understand. And so yes, and so every hobby has this, and it's been going on forever. So nothing new under the sun, folks. It's just the way it is, and we're just gonna have to deal with it the next year or so because it's 2024, and on top of it, 2024 is the 50th anniversary of D&D, so it's going to be even worse than it normally would be, just because you're going to throw that into the mix.
The only song that comes into my head is "Burning Down the House."
It's gonna be so miserable next year in that regard. I mean, 2020 was bad. I remember 2020 because not only did we have COVID, we had presidential election, and any years of presidential election, it just spills over into gaming and online. It just gets ridiculous. So it'll be 2020 without COVID, basically. That's what we're going to look for next year.
Oh, but have faith, Michael. Something will come up in 2020. There'll be
more COVID, another COVID, no flu.
There'll be some reason. Maybe
Leprosy.
It'll be the Great Canadian Fires 2.0.
Oh boy!
Everybody will have to do your mail-in casting of votes. Nobody leave the house. We're gonna go online voting. How about that?
Hey, did your air ever clear up there?
Yeah, the air cleared up. I mean, I can go out now and not have worse air than I normal New Yorkers' worse air.
Right.
So that's not too bad. Tammy, people have learned to be very, very brave online. They say things on here they would never say, have the balls to, I'll say it for you, Tammy, the balls to say in person. And that's true.
That's very true.
We call it internet muscles or similar to beer muscles, but they're worse than beer muscles. Because here's the secret. If beer muscles make you say some shit in your local pub, there's a good chance that burly guy in the corner is going to step up and lay you out. It could be my friend John Mealy, who had a young Irish punk get in his face when he was 71. And the guy wanted to pick a fight with John. And John said, dude, I'm 71. At least give me the first punch. And the guy's like, of course. John laid him out, knocked him cold. Okay?
Yeah, that's never a good idea.
Yeah, that's what you face if your beer muscles are in person. But when your beer muscles are internet muscles, you're behind the screen. You say all this shit. You know, and what I love it is when it's like, oh, our community is about loving people. Our community is about being nice to everybody, except for people that are not members of our community. Talk all the shit you want about them. Ah,
except for this list of 10 people who we really don't like, 10 types
right.
of people we don't like.
You
If
know,
you're an
it's like,
ex-cop, we don't like you. But other than
oh,
that, hey, we are like, oh, we're all rainbows and puppy dogs here.
but not, but
And,
that ACAB. Remember that. Remember that.
mhm.
It's like, oh God.
Yeah,
And
I've seen people go to conventions and online they relations are testy to say the least between them, and they get to a convention and they walk up to each other, hey man, what's going on? Oh, not much. Hey, it's good to
yeah,
see you. Let's go have a beer. I mean, it just the whole dynamic changes when you're face to face with somebody and you realize that, oh, you know what, I might get my nose broke. Damn,
mm-hmm.
you know what, I'm going to approach this a little differently than I would online. I very rarely see people who treat other people badly online treat them the same way in person. I have seen that happen so rarely, where they're just the same asshole they were on the internet as a person they were on the internet. Usually, it is a 180. It's just a hey, a wave or something. Or how's it going? Oh, it's going okay. And because it's just we're just a different world when we're face to face. It's just it becomes real. It's real then.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Well,
it's like a video. It's a video game.
yeah.
It's you don't have to worry about the
Adam puts it
consequences.
well. It's because the internet has bred familiarity and reduced the fear of getting punched in the face.
Well, very true.
Very true. And you know that fear of getting punched in the face, that survival instinct,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's helpful. And that's part of real life, which is why, honestly, the same people who get these internet muscles are the same ones that want their walled gardens because they don't even want negative feedback about the shit they're pulling. They can't
Mm-hmm.
even handle that. It's not even the fear of getting punched in the face. It's the fear of, oh no, somebody may hear the shit that I'm spewing and say something bad about me. Please bring my walled garden around me and close it off. So, oh shit, half my walled garden is my political and social enemy. How
Mm-hmm.
did that happen?
Yep.
God.
Oh
Oh,
well, we'll get through it. We get through everything. Just look. So my gaming table, there we have 5 people. Three of them I played with for over 40 years. They're all of them are friends. The political spectrum goes from hard left to hard right, and then you have everybody in between.
right.
And you know what doesn't get talked about at the table is anything having to do with politics or religion or blah blah blah. It's just we just game. We've known each other a long time. I mean, and these I know these guys don't vote the same. No, they just don't, and it just doesn't. It's not an issue. You know what I'm saying? We just because we're getting there to play games. We're there to play games. We've known each other for 40 years, and you're not going to change. You're not going to change anybody's mind. Are you going to change somebody's mind who's 60 years old? Very
Oh
rarely
my
is that going
God,
to happen.
no.
It just doesn't happen. You just don't change people's minds once they get to a certain age, and so just play games, and it seems to work out. I know some people would just say I can't believe you can say that because how could you play games with somebody who blankety blank blank? But you just do. You don't worry about that. Just like the douche nozzles that contacted us after 2016 that said, can anybody who voted for Trump and runs a game, can they wear like a red tag or something so I'll know not to play in their game at the convention? And Doug and I were just like, no, we're not doing that. What are you talking about? That's not even the realm of possibility here.
Yeah,
Uh,
but that is it's weird because you know uh, as as an American, right? We spent the years after 9/11 as a country trying to find ways to come together, and then I guess we came together so much. It's like, oh shit, we got to find ways to get apart, man.
how can we divide this? I'm tired of
Yeah,
looking at these
I
guys. I'm tired of
really,
dealing with them.
yeah. You gamers are all thinking when we get too close. Let's everybody spread out, please. Come on, I can't be that close to you, political opposites. It's like a magnet. You can't do it. Uh, Cal, the coming apocalypse of the Karening. Uh,
Look, I know in North Texas we had special guests that leaned pretty hard right, and we had some that leaned pretty hard left, and
mhm.
there weren't any fist fights at the con, and everybody ran games, and everybody had fun, and they said this guy's A's games were great, and then they said guys B's games were great, and nobody
Yeah,
got too upset or cried about it or
yeah. No,
stomped off or whatever. So
I actually witnessed political spectrum A and political spectrum B having a great conversation, and I mean laughing at each other's stories and all that stuff, and it blew my mind because I knew both of them, and I knew where both of their political leanings were, and
hmm
if you put them on a line for an election together, and they started talking, it would have like caused a riot. Yeah,
bad news, yeah.
but they were able to just enjoy themselves. I always call it, let's talk, let's in gaming, let's use the ties that bind us as opposed to the ties that tear us apart, right? Those ties that tear us apart don't tear, they aren't there to bring us together, right? Those are the politics and social issues are important issues, but if you're there to game, game. If we're here to talk about gaming, talk about gaming. And yes, climbing that mountain. We are all too old to fight at our age. Oh
So
yes.
there's a really, so if you have a chance when you're out, when you're just doing something, if you haven't heard about a guy named Daryl Davis, look up Daryl Davis and look up his story, because I think of that every time I think about, we have a convention and people are like, why don't you tell these people not to come to your convention, or these people? I mean, look, we're not going to allow like somebody with a swastika in their arm to come to our convention, or what I'm saying. If you're over the top, we're not going to have you come. But for the most part, everybody's welcome. But so read about the story about Daryl Davis, who's a black man who. So I'm just real quick go over his story. So he was at a bar one night. He played the blues. He's a blues player, and this guy walked up to him and they started talking about the blues. And this guy, and he said, well, that's something else you stole from our people, you black people. Go, no, the blues were invented by black. Oh, hold on. Rock and roll was invented by black people. And the guy said, what are you talking about? And so they got in a long discussion about Chuck Berry and, where rock and roll came from. And they had this long discussion. At the end, the guy goes and shook his hand and said, I just wanted you to know I'm a member of the Ku Klux Klan. And he's like, oh, okay. And he's like, but it's not like we go around killing people all the time. But I'm just letting you know but I just let you know that's who I am. And my buddy over here is too, and he's a grand wizard. And this the guy's like, holy shit. And he's like, and so later on, the Daryl Davis starts thinking about it, going, we had a conversation for like 30 minutes, and this guy, his whole purpose is to hate me and want me dead and destroy me. And so he started thinking about what can I do with, how can I work this? And so what he started doing was, when he played these bars, these down in the deep South, especially, he kind of made this group of friends that were in the KKK, and they would introduce him to other KKK members. And he would talk to me. He said, I just want to know why you hate me. Can you explain that? All I'm here is to find out why you don't like me. And it'd always be really vague things like, well, because you people did this and you did this, that, and you're all on welfare and this and that. He's like, okay, well, and they would talk for a while. And then afterwards, more often than not, he would make a friend of these guys. The guy would say, well, I don't like black people, but I like you, Daryl. You're okay. You're okay. You're not like the rest of them. And so the story goes on is over the years, he starts meeting these like grand wizards, like high up in there. He goes to their house, has dinner with them. So the story goes on for years. He claims at this point of his life, he's had over 200 KKK members give him his robes, like turn him over and said, I quit the KKK, because they finally met a black man and talked to a black man and found out that everything they'd learned and been taught wasn't true. It was bullshit. And I respect the hell out of this guy. I mean, if you read his story, there's also a documentary about him too. It is mind-blowing, because this dude just would walk into bars or people's houses that were high, like said, grand wizards of the KKK, and just talk to them. So my point of telling this story is, and this guy, I mean, honestly, he does something that not all of us can do, because what he's done is just amazing. I mean, most people don't want to get that close to Nazis or KKK members or people who have really abhorrent views like that. We've been taught, forever, that you don't change people's minds, and you usually don't. Arguing doesn't change people's minds. But what he did was he didn't argue with them. He just wanted to talk to him and ask him, why you hate me? Why do you hate
Right.
me? And why do you hate me particular? Not black people. Why would you hate
Right.
me? Oh, well, I don't hate you, Daryl. And so then you go, okay, well, if you're wrong about me, maybe you're wrong about other people. Anyway, he'd get him to think. So that's one reason why North Texas has always said that just come to the con and game, because like you said, Eric, you may be sitting there with somebody who is your political opposite, and you start having a conversation about elf games and D&D, and you start realizing, well, this guy isn't a dick. I mean, I heard this guy was a real a-hole, and
Right.
he's not, though. This guy seems to, I mean, he plays D&D the right way, man. He plays old school D&D the way it's supposed to be played. And I just think that helps more than, look, if you want to be in a walled garden and have your own Facebook page where nobody talks about anything else, I mean, that's your prerogative. Absolutely. And if you want to do that, fine, but you're not exposed to other people, and you don't find out that sometimes the other people who become the boogeyman, maybe they're not the boogeyman. And then also, one of the things that Daryl Davis proved is you can change people's minds, and because he did. These people would eventually, after he knew them for years, sometimes it would take years. He'd go over their house for years and years, and they'd finally say, Daryl, you know what? I just decided that I'm not in the KKK anymore because it's just stupid. And, here's my robe. You can have my robes. Because what he does is he collects robes. He collects robes from former KKK members. So if you get a chance, read about Daryl Davis. I mean, it's just an amazing story, and blues guy that wasn't afraid to talk to people that basically wanted him dead, or wanted him and his race dead.
Oh yeah.
If he could do that, why can't we do that with gay people who game differently than us?
Well, in a way,
I don't understand.
That's what conventions are about, right? That's what it allows you to sit at a table and play games with others, and have the unifying theme be the game you're playing, and you're not dealing with, I don't know, Tenkar the Yahtzee or Mike the Woketard. You are playing with Bad Mike and Tenkar to achieve an objective, and all the other stuff falls behind.
Right.
Like Adam makes a good point. The problem is that on both sides, acceptance now means agreement. I don't have to agree with you to be happy to let you be who you want to be.
Absolutely. And I sent you the link to the documentary about this guy, Eric. It's in the private chats if you want to post that too. It's a really good documentary. It's very, like I said, it's just very interesting because it goes against everything you think about how, well, you shouldn't be hanging out with people who don't believe the same thing as you. Well, you never know. Maybe sometimes you might meet somebody and change their mind, or you may even change your mind. Who knows? And that's why, like you said, Eric, that's why we love cons, right? You go to a convention and you're all just sitting around afterwards, and you're in the bar and you're talking about whatever, and then you start talking about games and this, and you're not even thinking about this guy across from you, who he voted for, or what he stands for, or if he hates this or loves that. You're not thinking about that. You're just thinking about the next thing you're going to say about your D&D character, or your gaming. And so it's always good to have those kind of situations. I feel sorry for people who don't have those situations, because I've had great fun at cons, right? I mean, you just talk to people and you meet people you wouldn't normally meet, so.
I mean, I do more socializing than gaming at conventions, because I'm socializing with people that are fellow gamers. I don't care, what your occupation is. Although if your occupation is in gaming, so much the better, because now I can be like, oh my God, I'm talking to somebody who could make a living off this shit, or at least some income off it, which is always exciting. But I just want to spend my time with fellow gamers. That's what we share. I'm trying to catch up on the comments. I'm falling behind. It happens.
Oh, by the way, Dandelion Games, that's Lou, and he will be on the show next week.
Yes.
Hello to you, Lou. We're going to talk about all kinds of fun stuff next week, including his games, including his awesome Dare Luck Club game and some other stuff he's got going. So, I'm looking forward to that next week.
Adam, I understand your point too. You've met people at cons, love being around them. Click your fan.
I've done the same thing. Yeah, I did the same thing. I'm like, oh, I clicked them on, and then 2 days later, I'm like, unfollow. I can't deal with it. Yeah.
Let's not oversimplify either the problem or the solution. Somebody who is LGBT wants to game with an LGBT character, that can easily trigger the quitting, forcing your lifestyle on me nonsense. I haven't seen it at a convention. I've played with people from other gender identities than what I would normally be
Yeah,
around.
because you know why? Because it doesn't matter in games. If your character's
Yeah,
LBGT or not, it doesn't matter. You're
right.
playing an elf in a fantasy land that doesn't exist, and so it should never come into play your sexual. First of all, if you're doing sexual stuff at the table, you're doing it wrong anyway. Believe me, I play with four other guys or five other guys that are 50+ years old. I don't want to be play acting romantic situations with them.
Oh hell
God,
no, you're not gonna make a
God,
cat
no, no.
bartender.
We fade to black when that happens. We just like, okay, roll the, yeah. We don't want to know. I don't want to know what you're doing. So you shouldn't be doing. Definitely shouldn't be doing that at a con. You should be getting that explicit about a con where sexual identity would matter at all. Oh, my character's pansexual. So, well, why does that matter? Whoa, hold on. We're trying to pick the lock into the to get into the King's Vault. I don't really care what your character's gender, sexuality is.
Right.
That should matter when you're playing.
No, I can
Should.
see that actually coming up in a long-term campaign.
Sure, and that's different
Depending on how
though.
you get with that, but that's your group
Campaigns you're with
dynamic.
people that you should know, and if you want to use X cards or fake cards or whatever they call those cards in your own home campaign, that's great, and you should know if somebody in your group is triggered by phase spiders. I don't know, whatever, but yeah, and a con game's different. You're just there. You're just putting in your 4 hours, hopefully having a good time, and then you're gone.
Yeah.
It's a totally different thing when you're in your own campaign, because I would hope that most of the time when you're doing a campaign game, you know everybody at the table well enough to be able to suss out, like, okay, so if we role play a romantic encounter, you're going to be into that, Fred? Oh yeah, I am going to be into it totally.
Alrighty. Well, anybody want to play the role play the romantic encounter with Fred? Because that was always my nightmare as a GM, and this only happened in my teen years, because that's always when somebody's like, "Well, hold on a second, I put a 17 in my charisma, and I want to make a hit on the barmaid." It's like, dude, I am not playing it
it's
out as your
it's
GM.
not real. Yeah, I had those players too, and I had to tell them, it's not real life. I don't care if you get laid in the fake bar and your fake mind in the fake game. That's great for you. I'm glad you had a great time with your 18 charisma and hitting. But tell you what, we're just going to roll the dice and say you had a great night, and you wake up the next day, and that's it. We're on to the dungeon. I don't really give a shit about what you did with the hot elf maiden you met in the bar. That's just not what I'm not going to role play that. Okay, sorry, we're just not doing it.
David West has a interesting little story here.
And that's true of a lot of people. It's funny how many people don't have problems individually with people, but have problems with it as a concept. If you know what I'm talking about. I mean,
Right.
and that's true in a lot of things. You have problems. Well, I don't, as a concept, I don't like this, but then you meet the person, you're like, oh, well, I don't have problems with you personally. So I think that was the whole point about Daryl Davis. I mean,
Right.
the people he met had a problem with black people, but they didn't have a problem with Daryl Davis. They just, I don't like the way black people act. Okay, well, do you care about me? Well, no, you're fine, Daryl. Okay, well, maybe other people are like me, and so yeah, that's what's good about gaming, is you do get to face other people, or you talk to other people that you maybe you don't have in your little walled garden off here.
Right.
And walled gardens can mean a lot of things. Like years ago, we had the Pathfinder Society wanted to run. They ran events at most conventions. The Pathfinder Society, they would come in, they run Pathfinder. You keep saluting me?
I keep on getting blurry, so I keep on trying to get the camera.
So the Pathfinder Society they always wanted to come to a convention and run games there. The problem is they wanted to be in their own little walled garden. They would run Pathfinder Society games only for Pathfinder Society members, and they wanted their own rooms, their own tables, their own games, and they didn't mix with anybody else. And so Doug and I said no. And they said, why would you say no? No one's ever said no. We give away all these cool prizes, and we donate this and that, whatever. We said, that's not what our con's about. We don't want groups off into corners. We don't want 15 or 20 people off in this corner gaming by themselves and not interact with the rest of the convention. We don't want you to have your own mini con at our con. And so that was something and they were just shocked. They're like, well, I don't understand. Nobody's ever said no to us. The Pathfinder Society and DFW, nobody ever said no to them. But that wasn't what we wanted in our convention. We didn't care. Like, oh, if you did this, we'd have 20 people come to your con. That's 20 people at $80 a pop. I mean, like, that's just not what we want to do.
No,
we don't want to have.
Well,
20
because
people have their own mini con.
that becomes exclusive, not inclusive, right? I mean, that's part of the issue. David West in 2000,
Yeah.
23 years ago at Gen Con, a trans player played in the Living City Interactive. No one would join her team. I did, and we had a blast. In 2009, I helped found the Tea Party.
Well, that's what I meant. So,
Yeah.
look, even if you had a problem with trans people, you didn't have a problem with that particular person. That's how these things usually happen, is that you have a problem with the concept, and then the reality is, well, I really, that person's fine. That person's okay. So
Thraxis, did you all see this week? See this what?
this what happened?
Well, yeah, what? See,
What did we
see,
miss?
I know it's not a WotC event because WotC's
Oh
been
boy.
fairly quiet.
By the way, it's speaking of WotC, our favorite kick the clown buddies, they have not won this week in Gaming Stupid.
Oh my God! How the hell could that happen?
Yeah, somebody did something stupid, Eric, and it was pretty stupid, and it became a hot topic for a while, and it's tamped down a lot now because there's been understanding reached. But this has to do with, well, why don't you explain the story? This has to do with Renegade Games and Renegade, and this has to do with two Renegades. Okay,
Renegade Games. Do I still have the Kickstarter up?
Renegades 1 and 2.
I got so many Kickstarter tabs open, but probably not that one.
I was about to say I figured you might have it open on there. You might have.
I was looking. I was looking. Hold on. You know what? I'm gonna have to do something.
Oh,
forgive me, folks.
No, don't reboot the computer.
No.
All right.
I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna go to a source that's been much better over the last
In-World?
Yes.
Oh well, you know what? They got their shit together lately. They're not the idiots of the past. So
yeah, So
what can I say? Well, so I'll just start out. So there's a company called Polyhedral Knights, and they came out with a game called Renegade City Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Small Kickstarter, like maybe $3,000, right? I mean, this is no big shot, thousands of dollars.
Very, I mean, a very, shall I say, even minor Kickstarter. But do you see the graphics on front for Renegade City? Now,
they have a certain look to them. Yeah, certain look.
Certain look. Now, this certain look has nothing to do with Renegade Games at all. Yet Renegade Games sent to C&D claiming that there was a trademark infringement for the use of the word Renegade, which, I mean, hasn't that been used by FASA for Renegade Legions? Renegade's been used in a lot of tabletop gaming. I don't think you can suddenly tell somebody you can't use it. But, Mike, I told you that the CEO or the COO or one of the honchos stepped into N-World and said that, and Scott G, Renegade's intent is only to protect its brand and prevent any direct or indirect confusion. In this specific case, the game in question bears an extremely strong resemblance to an intellectual property not owned or licensed by Renegade Game Studios. So you're not protecting your trademark. That's not what you're doing with this threat.
Right.
Even an accidental affiliation today or in the future is something we would prefer to avoid. Our intent would prevent any such confusion well before any issues arise and while there is still time to make changes before their production begins.
But this is where I start calling bullshit, because here's the deal. First of all, they didn't call up Renegade Studios and say, hey, or Renegade Polyhedral Knights and say, hey, just wanted to let you know that we're worried about this, and this. How can we resolve this? No. They issued a legal document that said a cease and desist. You need to change your name. You need to change your name and we're a big giant company that has, tens of thousands of dollars, and you're this little tiny doo-doo that's going to make $3,000 a Kickstarter. Well, anybody like that would be scared, because for them, $3,000 is a lot of money. It's not that big a deal. Now, the more to the point, this kind of trademark dispute thing is illegal, because it's already been ruled in court many times when people have tried to shut down. Hey, My restaurant's called Bob or Eric's Burgers. I'm going to shut you down, Eric, because you have the word burgers in your name. That might have confusion with Mike's Burgers. Yours is Eric's Burgers. This case has already been tried many times, gone to the Supreme Court, whatever. You cannot trademark common names. Now, Disney does it all the time when somebody puts up a Pinocchio, or
Right.
even though Pinocchio is a story that's been around for, hundreds of years, because you're not allowed to do Disney's Pinocchio. Now, you could do another Pinocchio. You can't make your Pinocchio look like Disney's. The same with, anything else like Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid's a story that's been around Hans Christian Andersen for hundreds of years. You can do your own version of Little Mermaid. Studios have. There's cartoons for Little Mermaid. They don't look like Disney's. You can't look like it. So that is an important point, is that you can't look like they're something else to endanger being confused. Confusion. My problem is this could have been solved before this ever got to the point where it got to the point where they had to try to strong arm these guys and say, look, you're these little peons and we're these big badasses. And
Pretty
so,
much.
yeah, Matthew's right. Monster Energy drink does it all the time, which is hilarious. Anybody that has anything Monster in their thing, they try to issue these statements. The problem is they never get past we're going to draw legal papers and send it to you, because they would lose the case. Now, you could say, okay, yeah, but they could money whip these people for a while. A lot of cases, I think that you might be able to get representation just because somebody knows there's going to be a giant payday at the end, because they're going to lose the case. You can't. I mean, Monster Energy just does that to piss. They're just trying to. Anybody has Monster that does anything with Monster, they try to sue them. The same thing. So anyway, my issue with this is they didn't try to work this out beforehand, and what happened was the tide and the sympathies quickly turned.
Oh yeah.
Games, and people were canceling, or because I'm trying to remember what they put out. I know they put the G.I. Joe RPG out.
I think Transformers.
Yeah, they have quite a few properties, and a lot of people jumped online and said, we're canceling our orders. I was going to order $100 worth of stuff. I canceled it. And I think this started hitting on the pocketbook, and they started realizing, you know what, this is not the year to be the bad guy, because look what happened to Watsy when they were the bad guy. How did that work out? Boy, that did not work out for them.
And the thing is, they're protecting their quote trademark, which it's a common word, but what they really admit to doing is we were protecting the trade dress of a third party.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Renegade City makes no qualms about it. It's a modern day anti-hero criminal role-playing game tabletop RPG. What does that sound like to you, Mike?
You got me, man. That's like I have no clue.
Do you want to be a rock star? Do you want to be a rock star?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is literally cribbing off of a very popular criminal game,
right?
And it makes no bones about it.
Grand Theft Auto. Yes, exactly. It's Grand Theft. It's Grand Theft Auto. Yes.
It's Grand Theft Auto as a tabletop RPG.
Right.
Do I think obviously there's not much of a market for it, because they made barely not even $3,700. So I don't even think that Grand Theft Auto is going to give a shit. Rockstar probably won't care, but still, that's not something that Renegade should have been even concerned about. It isn't. It has nothing. They could only lose in this, and they were going to lose.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so this week the Polyhedral Knights said, hey, I found it right here. It's like, hey, everyone, good news. I talked with the lawyers representing Renegade Game Studios. It seems to be a misunderstanding. No fucking kidding. And once we talked, we both saw each other's side on a few points. I gave them some assurances I wasn't trying to poach business from them, and we were not looking to get them in any trouble for having similar art to another IP, Grand Theft Auto. Once we point out that we share an art style which can't be copyrighted or trademarked, and a similar publicly commercial font with a certain IP, and that is all, they seemed a little more at ease. In other words, look, we're copying GTA, you're copying GTA, we're not going to get you, don't worry. Everybody's okay. And then so it ends with, please go easy on these guys. They didn't know and they're now better informed. I think that's bullshit, personally. We're all brothers and sisters of the gaming world. We need to play nice in the playground. Thanks again for everyone's support. It means a lot to me. So Mickey was actually taking the high ground here because
Yeah.
he dodged I think he feels like he dodged a bullet, because I know he was very worried about this, just a week ago. But look, he doesn't need to be conciliatory to these guys, because they screwed up and they paid the price. And I think what they saw, at least look, they're smarter than Watsy, because Watsy rode that plane all the way down to, and they said, whoa, they went, whoa, pull it up. Okay, well, let's not sue this guy. This is not a good idea to say we're going to sue this guy.
We don't have to do this right now.
Yes.
This isn't worth it. But in a way, this reminded me of the whole Gygax magazine bullshit. Okay, because with Gygax magazine, Gail filed a legal action. It wasn't a lawsuit. I was told this, and if I called it a lawsuit, I risked getting legal action against me. But she filed legal action about the use of the proper name Gygax, which, if you look up trademarks, you can't trademark a proper name. But in any case, Gygax was trademarked. She had an action against TSR Games, TSR 2. And I have from multiple sources who refused to sign, therefore they could talk to me.
Right.
That part of the agreement was after both sides had spent over six figures in litigation.
Oh my gosh!
And before you go, how can you spend over $100,000 per side in litigating something that didn't even go to court? Believe me, legal expenses add up quickly.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you know that now.
Yeah. Good lawyers ain't cheap. But the deal was this: anybody who was going to stay at TSR, for them to use the name Gygax, to be licensed to use the Gygax, had to sign an agreement, a non-disparaging agreement, which I had never heard of until this time.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
where they could not say anything negative in any manner, by word, spoken, written, telegraph, ESP. You could not
forever too. There was no time limit on this.
Right, there was no time
from this moment on. You could never say anything negative.
Right, and that was the only way you could stay with TSR. Well, the brothers left, Tim Kask left, others left, and they did not sign the agreement. So that is the bullshit that can happen over stuff that literally, if it had gone to trial, Gail would have lost, but she out-pocketed. Her pockets were deeper. And that was essentially the end of TSR2 as we knew it, because Gygax magazine was the engine.
Which, by the way, is one of the reasons why we scoff and laugh heartily at any plan Gail has to sell bricks or whatever for the new memorial, because look, she's wasted money on very questionable things the past 12 years. One of them being this stupid vendetta against Gygax magazine. There's been other stupid things she's wasted money on. So, but this is one of the ones that really irks me, because there was literally, look, she didn't gain anything from this.
No,
all both sides did was lose. She lost money, and then they lost money, and they lost the magazine. Nobody gained anything from it. And then she has the gall to crybaby now about I never get invited to GaryCon. Why would they invite you to GaryCon? You fucking sued them. They're not gonna invite you to GaryCon anymore. I'm sorry. Just. And well, they're not going to. Nobody. I don't have enough money to build my. No, you don't have enough money to build it because nobody likes you, and everybody that knows what you did to the Gygax brothers doesn't want to give you a cent. And unfortunately, that's your biggest pile of money right there, is people who go to GaryCon and buy elf games and D&D, and you've alienated all them because the way you treated your husband's name, which is to bury it in a 10-foot hole and throw 10 tons of concrete on top of it, so that nothing he ever created after D&D is in print, and hasn't been in print for a decade. and then also to crap all over the Gygax name and infer that they didn't, she infers all kinds of stuff. They didn't love their dad, that they didn't do this and that they don't respect her. Well, they shouldn't respect her, but so I didn't think I'd get hot about this tonight, but I mean, it just annoys me that this is like, oh, let's bygones be bygones. Let's build a statue, man. Come on, give us some more money, and that's my opinion is going to be no on that every time. No, I'm not going to give her any more money. Thank you very much.
No more good money after bed.
Not another cent. Not another cent to this. So
buy a brick. Everybody wants a brick. A brick for you. A brick for me.
Just look table to $600 for the bench's name right next to a shit house. Hey, I'm going to say one thing. If we give Paul a hard time, he got something done. At least something got done. Something. There is now something that they've actually done with the Gygaxes had a memorial out there for the last 10 years. They've had a brick out there that people go to whenever they go to Gary Con, and they put dice on it and they roll dice on it, and they have pictures sitting next to it. It took them 12 years to finally get something done. I mean, something that, so even if it is a dumb bench by the pooper, it's something. They got something done the last. So I'm going to give Paul credit for that. I mean, something got done there.
Oh! Evil cheese. Can I tell a short Whitman story?
Oh, we have new Whitman news too. We forgot about this.
There's an ongoing story with the Whitman stuff that I'm digging into. But so apparently, wait, in between gigs, we'll call it gigs. So I don't want to call it what it probably is, which is
porn. No, I'm sorry.
Wow. Liberating funds from unsuspecting, slightly stupid individuals. So Ken, while living in somebody's casa, was like, oh, I have these Kickstarters I got to finish. And it was like, well, what do you need? I need pencils, and I need a pencil press, or whatever they call it, and printer. So somebody bought Ken an imprinter. But wait, somebody's saying, didn't somebody else already buy Ken an imprinter? Yeah.
The story's going to have a really horrible ending. I can already tell. We'll keep going.
Well, Ken must have left his other imprinter behind when he moved states. So this person, trying to do the right thing, buys Ken a bunch of blank pencils.
Why is somebody buying him anything anymore? Good Lord, people, wake up!
And gets Ken a pencil imprinter, and Ken starts imprinting pencils in the basement. But here's the thing:
in a pencil Kickstarter, so maybe he's going to fulfill it.
One pencil at a time. And Ken owes thousands of pencils.
Oh, it's not going to get it done anytime soon.
And after doing this for an unknown amount of time, Ken, and God bless him, he spoke honestly, said, fuck this shit. I ain't doing no more pencils. It takes too long.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
Rachel's in the background going, it took about 10 minutes. I don't know exactly how long.
I don't want to do pencils anymore. I'm tired of doing pencils.
I'm not doing no more pencils.
No more pencils.
So if you have any pencils that you are expecting your pencil dice, write it off with the tax loss, because apparently you can.
Oh boy.
Hold on a second. Now this is interesting. Oh, Don. Wait, pencils? We got an email a few weeks ago asking if we print on pencils.
Oh no, he didn't.
You didn't. Now, secondary story, totally not attached to the first story, but still deals with Ken Whitman. There is, being run by Steve Jackson Games, a Ken Whitman Kickstarter. No, not really. It's a group Kickstarter. But guess who wrote the rules back 20 years ago? Ken. So I understand that Ken was trying to sell the Gru game a number of years ago to another publisher, but he didn't have the rights to the artwork, only to the rules. Would you buy a Gru game without the Gru art?
No, because it's all Sergio's art. I mean, that's what
Right.
makes the Gru comic and the Gru game is if you don't have Sergio's art, then it's no there's no point in it. You know,
Right.
no. Why would you do that?
So he was trying to sell the game without the art. I'm guessing, obviously, that Steve Jackson Games, Steve Jackson was able to license it. I'm backing it. I love Gru. And from the people that I've spoken to who have had access to the original rules, said it's a great game. So,
Hmm.
I mean, there was apparently a time when Ken Whitman could actually produce stuff. Uh, go
Hmm.
figure. Go figure.
He got lazy and he got so I mean
He got the CTS, man. He got the CTS.
he got lazy.
Diagnosed upon death and an autopsy, but he was diagnosed, so he's The Walking Dead. So
He got lazy, and this is what happens when you get lazy: is you start cutting corners. Next thing you know, you're in debt, and you owe somebody how much now? Is this
I listen. Remember, he went to court. He went to small claims court in New York over the Knights of the Dinner Table live action series fiasco, and had to admit under oath that uh, all the proofs, all the films were on hard drives that he stored in a friend's barn, and his friend's barn burned down. Now, this is
unbelievable?
like
Yeah.
Miss O'Leary's cow type of
Hmm.
deal, but I mean, honestly, if the life of Ken, he should be writing a book about the life of Ken Whitman. You'll never
You
believe
know,
the bad luck I've had.
he might be. If he did that, he may have enough money to pay off some of these debts if he actually wrote a book, and
No, no,
because
no.
it's such a crazy life that people might buy it just to find out what happened. I mean, how did
Listen,
this guy go wrong?
I mean, my understanding is that there was a situation in Atlanta where he left a woman holding an amount of debt.
Well, he left
That
his ex fiance holding it, but was that the woman you're talking about? Because
that
yeah,
was
his
the
ex
hotel.
fiance paid
That
for
yeah,
a lot of stuff out of her own pocket, and then he took off on her, leaving her with a crap load of that was God. This is a long time ago. I remember this.
yeah.
She was one of the actresses in his ill-fated Traveler, uh,
Oh
whatever
God,
that
yeah.
was, video trailer or whatever. So.
She that was the one he went on the cruise with
Well, so you went on a cruise with
with the
all
Kickstarter
your
money.
money, with all your money, people.
So now,
Yes.
now, folks, to put things in perspective, what 6, 7, 8 months ago, Ken came onto the live stream and was like, "Oh, Mr. Carter, bring me on,
Oh yes,
send
this
me
is so
in, Coach.
great.
I'm ready to play. Here's my cell
I
phone
turned
number."
over a new leaf, boys.
Just
And everything
take a
you
look.
know is wrong. Everything you know about me is wrong. I just want to
All
let
right.
you know.
Everything I know about Ken is right. I have it from multiple sources. The only thing with Ken is that Ken is a moving target. And for some reason, and I don't understand this completely, um, many of those wronged by Ken want to get justice, but want others to complete the justice cycle. And I don't quite understand. It's like I guess Ken is an imposing individual, and people are afraid that if if they take the action, it may come back and hurt them. So maybe I can get some other patsies to do it. I don't know, but that's the kind of feeling
I
I
just say
get.
a lot of people, look, it takes a certain kind of person to over the years I've run into people I, who I thought they had good cases against one thing or another, and lawyers did too, and they just didn't want to go through it. And you could say you've been through legal actions. It's a
Yeah,
time-consuming beatdown, isn't it? It's
it
not
is.
something that happens very quickly and very fast. And so, if you don't want to be in it for the long run, I can absolutely see you going. You know what? I'm not going to do this. I just don't want to be in it for the long run. I I had a friend one time that got um, hit by a car and was hurt, and he was urged that he had a case that was going to win and this and that, and the lawyer took his case pro bono. It was that because he's like, I don't have any money, and well,
Right.
this case is, this guy hit you, this and that. He turned down surefire money because one thing the lawyer did tell him is that this is probably going to take several years. It is not going to be a very quick process,
Right.
Because this guy is going to fight it every inch of the way. But when he loses, which he will, you're going to get money. And my friend just said, no, I don't want to do it. And just some people, that's just their personality, right? I mean,
which is fine, but I'm talking more about people who will give you the instructions on how to take Ken down a notch or two, but then aren't going to do the actions themselves. That concerns me. Okay, when somebody's like, "Hey, you can do X, Y, and Z," well, why aren't you doing X, Y, and Z? I mean, especially when you're telling me when I have absolutely nothing to do with any of this stuff. I am just the investigative reporter that's following this, and yet you're giving me instructions on how to kneecap somebody who might need to get kneecapped. I'm not saying that. Not in the literal sense.
Right.
So
no, we do not. This show does not advocate kneecapping any way, shape, or form.
No. Very dangerous stuff. You don't do that stuff.
Leave the kneecapping to professionals. Okay, folks? Yeah.
Make sure you hire the right one. But, I mean, so listen, Ken is the gift that keeps on giving. I got to figure out where his next avenue of income manipulation is going to come from. I'm trying not to use other words. I'm trying to be generous in my description.
Yeah, of course we're always generous. Always generous. But yes, it's look. It's like just to use a word. We're not applying this to him, but it could be anybody. Like grifters. Grifters, once they start grifting, they don't want to go back. They don't work 9 to 5 jobs again. I mean, because they get addicted to the whole grifting. They get addicted to the grift, and they like tricking people, and they like getting money for nothing, and they'd rather grift and make less money grifting than more money with an actual job. So Ken's kind of like that person. I'm not saying Ken's a grifter, but I'm just saying that he's become addicted to a new type of lifestyle that doesn't require him to, really have consequences or, work too hard and so, and I just think that was hilarious when he wanted to come on the show, and boy, he was just, you know what, you guys, I like you guys. I like, Eric and Mike, I like you guys, but you're just wrong about everything. You're just so wrong. I mean, let me on the show and I will tell you the real story. We're going to talk about what really happened. And, sometimes, Eric, late at night when I'm laying in bed, lonely by myself without my clothes on. Oh, I'm sorry, too many details. When I'm just laying in bed, I think, what if we'd have had Ken on? That might have been the greatest show ever. That might have been the greatest show ever, because it would have been the minute he opens his mouth, lies, to the minute he shut his mouth an hour later, lies. And we would have been dissecting that thing to this day. But then I think, no, cooler heads prevail, because why were we going to give him a free platform to spew his nonsense? Because that's what it would have been, right? It would have been nonsense.
Oh, it would have been total fictitious everything. And be like, so Ken, when you were selling the boot, das Boot from the Living Dead, your certificate of authenticity was denied to be a valid one from the company that was embossed on it. What would you say? Well, I got it. They must have changed the way they're doing their.
Yeah, that's that. By the way, that's why you don't buy official movie props from anybody but like Warner Brothers or MGM Studios. Don't buy it from Fred down the street, because I guarantee you that samurai sword he has of Michonne and Walking Dead is going to be really shaky whether or not that actually was in the movie or not.
Why did they help wiggle and all this stuff?
This is plastic. I don't get it. No, that's it's just like buying sports memorabilia. I remember a story came out about 20 years ago, and I'm sure it hasn't changed much. An independent investigator did an investigation of sports memorabilia autographs across the United States, and they spent about $50,000. They went to sports memorabilia stores all across the United States, from East Coast to West Coast, and bought about $50,000 worth of stuff. They had an independent analysis of it, and 50% of it was fake. One half of it was fake, Eric. That's how where they had the guys go over with the autographs. Nope, this is not Mickey Mantle. Nope, this is not Nolan Ryan. Nope, it was that bad. 50%. So 50% of the stuff you buy out there is fake. I'm sure the movie stuff is too, and I wouldn't be surprised if God knows what Ken sold on the side to people. Remember when I was in The Walking Dead? I was walking by the actor who plays Glenn one day, and he dropped this water bottle. And this is Glenn from Walking Dead's water bottle. I mean,
it's his spittle on it.
There's DNA on it. There's DNA on it. This is Daryl from Walking Dead's crossbow bolt. I swear he fired it at a tree, and I pulled it out afterwards. So
I was the axe murderer. What was it? What was he known? His non-speaking part.
He was called Axe Man, or yes, he had
the Axe Man.
So Ken's semi-famous. But the only thing he actually ever did, and by the way, you can see him on television if you ever get reruns of MacGyver, the new MacGyver. He was famous for playing heavies that did not have speaking roles, and were on screen for like 5 minutes because he's a big hulking guy. Yeah. And so he would appear on screen, and then he'd get beat up by the hero or clonked on the head or something, and that was his parts. And
his part in what was it? The MacGyver. It was a MacGyver reboot. That's what blows my mind.
It was a reboot. Yeah, it was a MacGyver reboot, not the original.
The point where the MacGyver reboot is an old show.
Oh boy.
He was in the MacGyver. It was in MacGyver. He's a security guard in a suit that gets tased.
Yeah, that's right. He got tased. And then in Walking Dead, he was, I think they call it Axe Man or Axe something. He walked around. So in one scene with about 50 extras, he was the extra right over here with an axe in his hand that was on screen for maybe like 3 seconds. I don't know. 20 seconds maybe. When Negan was making a speech, he's like back there somewhere. You can, if you know who you're looking for, you can find him, but otherwise you wouldn't know he's there.
I am Whitman.
And who was the comic book star guy he hooked up with?
God, he passed too.
The late man, the late guy. Oh gosh, I can't remember his name already. Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot it. But he gave Whit a place to sleep, and Whitman made a little 2-minute movie or 10-minute movie where he played the character he was in Walking Dead, which is a non-speaking role of a guy carrying an axe. So,
oh God, oh God, why can't I am having one of those singer moments, folks.
I'm with you on that one. I even met the guy at Gen Con, and I can't remember his name, and he was a fixture on the game comic scene. Oh, the Titans comics guy. What's this guy? Titan Games. God, I can't remember the guy's name. But our fans they'll help us out here. I don't
know. He was someone who said that Ken saved his life, and
he would never hold anything against him, and so he supported that. Supported him all those years, which is ridiculous, but he did. So. So who knows? Maybe the Ken Whitman story isn't over yet.
Marcus, thank you.
Yes, Marcus King. Thank you, Don. Yes, Marcus King, who supported after everybody had dumped him, and rightfully so because he was a loser. Marcus was still giving him a place to sleep in a store to run and whatever.
And Marcus actually bought him the first pencil. Printer and Bowser.
Oh, that's who bought him the first pencil.
And that's when Ken was initially fulfilling his pencil Kickstarter. But Ken was filling it not based on the order it was made, but in the smallest orders first. So if you ordered
because he could do one or two, he could ship
one or two. Then he could claim I completed 10% of the orders.
I'm shipping orders.
I sent out 30 pencils or whatever.
Right. Unbelievable.
Okay, he lived in Battle Creek.
The saga's not over yet. We may still hear from our friend at some point, and that's why you never forget, right? Because the minute you stop beating about these guys, they pop back on the scene. Everybody's like, because everybody, the audience rolls over every 3 or 4 years, and so I mean to this day, I mean you get people out there that don't know who Gary Gygax is. Like, who's Gary
Right.
Gygax? They're like, oh well, and they'll say who's Garrett Skarka, who's Ken Whitman, and they tell you this, and you have to, oh no, I got to tell you the story, because never forget about what Ken did to the hobby,
I
and
mean,
to the point where Kickstarter changed their rules. You couldn't fulfill one kit. You could not, to this day. You're not
yeah.
allowed to start another Kickstarter. Your other one's been completely fulfilled, and people have been screwed on that now, because they'll be like, "Well, I haven't completely fulfilled it." Well, Kickstarter will not let you start a new Kickstarter unless you have completely fulfilled it, because of Ken running. Was it 3 at 1 to 1? He ran 3 at one time. The
Well, three.
Traveler one, and
He had
the
the Traveler
he had a
one.
Castles of Crusades one.
Yeah.
Remember that? And then
He
he
had two pencil dice. He had
and
the
then Knights of the Dinner
Knights of the
Table.
Dinner
Nice,
Table live
yeah.
action series. He tried to ran a pop up dice thing. Remember, like you played.
Oh
Like,
my god, I forgot about that. Yeah.
yeah, he tried to run that one, but that one they Kickstarter denied after it launched, saying this isn't even like a project. This is you just buying like extra stock from like Hong Kong and
Uh,
just rolling it
from
into it.
Boggle Dice. He's buying Boggle
Yeah,
Dice.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of outstanding shit. But yeah, I mean, he's he listen, he not gonna name names in the community, but he snowed a number of big
oh yeah.
bigger
Big names. Yeah.
big names that if you want you go, who? Really? And
Well, Mark Miller got sucked in.
Mark
Jolly Blackburn and his
uh
wife.
Castles of
Yeah,
Crusades, you know,
yeah. Chenault's got sucked in. I mean, there was, yeah. This wasn't a penny ante scam he's pulling here. He got some big names in the hobby. And that's why his name. That's why he's persona non grata. But that's why we keep bringing him up, because he disappears for a year or two, and then people are like, "Who's Ken Whitman?" Well, I
right.
got to tell you a story here.
Now,
Got to tell you,
and
Ken.
here's the thing, folks. So those of you who don't know, so Ken Whitman, we didn't plan this story, by the way. We didn't plan on going
No.
off on a Ken Whitman
Oh my
angle.
God, no. We never
Uh,
planned that. Yeah.
Ken Whitman claims that he managed Gen Con, but he was like lower management at Gen Con for like a year or two, but he was not the manager of Gen Con. He never managed it. Um, he had a publishing company where he published books for other publishers. The problem was the bindings kept on falling apart on that stuff.
It's called Rapid POD, and
Yeah.
this is 20 years ago. This is
Yep.
very early odds, and that business crashed and burned. This is before Kickstarter even. That crashed and burned because he either didn't fulfill your order, or he did, and it was such horrible quality it fell to pieces. And so that was his. He's been doing this for a while now. He had a company called Mutazoid Games for a while that actually published a few things. I mean, he published some things early on, but it became far more easy for him just to not do things than to do things. And I think he
Right.
figured out that the gaming community doesn't really. So up until the Kickstarters happened, the gaming community never really came down on him or punished him for his misdeeds.
Well,
And
I
it
think
wasn't.
part of it was the internet wasn't as established either, so you
That's
didn't
true.
have
Yeah.
people sharing the stories. Because there's another story of Ken from before the Kickstarter days, the Highlander card game. You know that story,
Oh yeah, the Highlander card game. Yes.
where Ken was the printer for the Highlander card game. So what did Ken do? He printed more of the rares and ultra rares for himself to sell on the aftermarket.
Smart, in a way, but not really smart, because they're
I-
not worth anything. They're not worth anything now. But I guess the time that worked out for him. I guess I don't know.
Yes,
Yes,
yes, yeah, Don. He was going as cheap as possible, and
this is back when POD wasn't that great. I mean, POD is really done a lot better in the last 5 or 6 years. Actually, matter of fact, I mean, like I don't know, all Greg Gillespie stuff's POD, and it's like, I've never had any problem
yeah,
with it. So, but back in the early days of POD, you had chances to get some really shitty stuff. You would get some stuff that would literally fall apart on you, and that's kind of the quality of stuff he was throwing out there.
so yeah, Ken. I think what happened is once Ken reached the true internet age, he started learning that his scams were now following behind him. He
Right.
was also, folks, I will admit to this. I thought there was a period before he was doing all his own Kickstarters. He was running Kickstarters for others. Mike, do you remember this?
Mhm.
Do you remember when he did the Kickstarter for Elmore for the Snarf Quest book? He
Yes,
was,
I remember that. Yes.
and I, little old Tenkar, on my blog was like, "This is a brilliant idea. Getting a professional like Ken Whitman to run your Kickstarter is a great way to
Mhm.
ensure success." What a
Uh-huh.
fucking idiot I
Well, I
was.
mean, well, that did come out. That came out, right?
Yeah, that's
People
true.
actually got their Elmore books. I mean, it wasn't, although Elmore afterwards came to North Texas, and when we talked to him, he kind of gave your comment about Zach Smith. He said he wouldn't cross the street to piss on Ken Whitman if he was on fire. So Elmore was not happy about how that turned out
No,
because it, like everything Ken did, it was late and didn't meet the promises, and Elmore felt bad because he'd run to people cons like, hey, I backed your Kickstarter and this happened. Well, I was in control of it. So he had to answer so many questions about it. It just made it really pissed him off, that he was having to fill in the blanks that Ken had left for him.
so Ken is like a plague of locusts. He will resurface every couple of years,
Yes,
usually in a different place. He hasn't come back directly to gaming in a while. His current passion is bilking people out of money in the movie industry.
yes, because he picks industries that's really, gamers for a long time wouldn't, I guess, I don't know, stand up for themselves. I don't know. And the thing about a lot of people in the film industry are very fly by night people. They're people who haven't made it big yet, and they're in plays. They don't really get into movies very much. I mean, the people. It reminds me of sports. I mean, the people who played high school sports that end up in the NFL, it's like one for every 100,000. I think the same thing for actors. I mean, for every actor out there, there's 100 that makes it. There's 100,000 that just try and don't make it. So he preys on these people that don't have a lot of resources. They're not able to come after him.
Right.
And that's how a lot of these actors and actresses, they don't, who was that lady who he was filming her, what do you call them? Profiles, not profiles. I don't remember her name, but she went after him, and he was supposed to be doing um, I don't know what you call them when they film profiles and they do like small scenes, and so they put
Oh,
an audition tape.
right.
He was doing an
Right.
audition tape,
This
and
was in
so
this was in Atlanta.
I think so. Yeah, that was the one in Atlanta. Yeah,
I spoke to one of
I
the
remember that. I
women.
remember you talked to her. Yes.
Yeah, that was and here's the thing. Just like everybody else I've spoken to, Ken wound up living for free off of somebody. In
Mm-hmm.
this case, she was doing his laundry. She was making him meals.
Damn, he lived a lot.
Um,
He was
and
living the life.
and
My wife won't
and
do that.
yeah, and what usually seems to happen is he can sense when his time is going to be up, and before it's up, boom. I mean,
It's gone.
I worked with a cop that used to do that to roommates. He used to get up in the middle of the night and move out at like 3 a.m. Just do the dip because I don't know why he was just an asshole, but you know, Ken's doing this and has done this repeatedly, and I followed Ken in his various occupations, and he was uh, he was a vice president at some small African American owned film company for a while. Could never figure out how that worked out. Bizarre
He
fit.
had he obviously had a high charisma. He was able to talk
Yeah.
himself into several people's lives and talk. He talked a good game apparently, and he some people are good at that. I mean, that's what's so amazing about people like Justin is that I don't think they even talk a good game and they end up doing what they do. And so at least Ken would talk a good game. I mean, he knew how to get people to his side. So. Yes, I
How are
don't
you
know.
going to Ken?
We know Ken because every road leads back to Ken. It's kind of the eternal truth of this hobby. Every road in this hobby at some point or another leads back to Ken Whitman. So
Yeah, no, I did a phone interview last week regarding somebody who had issues with Ken, and can just become a bit of a focus. And he's also the game designer from like 25 years ago of the Gru game that is currently being kickstarted at Steve Jackson Games, which
Mm.
everybody I've spoken to who's played the game says it plays awesomely well. And the artwork is great, but again, it's just Ken keeps on just coming up and sliding into. You can't get rid of him. Evil Cheese said he's like an STD. He's like herpes, not so simplex. It flares up every couple of years, but it's never quite gone. Oh,
He'll be back too. Just keep your eyes open. He'll come back with an idea at some point. He'll figure enough people have forgotten about him that okay, everything's cool now. I can, and he'll do his apology tour like he was going to do with Eric and I, except it wasn't really an apology tour. It was a
no.
here's where everybody is wrong tour. Here's where you guys have all really screwed this up really bad tour, because he knows if he gets
Yeah.
in front of an audience and can talk to you, that he might be able to convince you of something. So.
I never threatened to send the FBI to Tankar's house.
Mm-hmm.
Would I do that? You might, Rabbit. You might.
He thought
Would
you were
I?
Ernie Gygax, though. That was the funniest
Yeah.
part. He thought you were and Ernie were the same person. Now, I've heard people say you're the same person as somebody else, but I don't understand how somebody can think you and Ernie are the same person. That doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think I'm a little bit thinner.
By the way, so speaking of Satine, I don't know if we talked about this or not, but I think she started her comeback tour.
Oh,
Because I've seen
really?
the videos of her doing this and saying, and it's like something like coming soon, Satine, the apology, or I don't know. Anyway, I seen her on Facebook pop up here and there, like she's got a really good agent now who's like, okay, we're gonna come back now. Jameson is in none of these little stills. Let me see if
Of
I
course
don't see if I
not.
can find one, but just her. But I think she is working on her, because I don't think she has a lot of possibilities right now. I mean, she doesn't want to go back to her old profession. She wants to do something else, and so I mean, she'd love to get back into gaming. And so I think that's a big part of it too. Oh, I take it back. Here's a picture of her in May, and it's her and Jameson on looks like a boat. So maybe they're, God knows what they're doing.
Ooh, they're on a boat.
So I don't think they had any. I wouldn't think they had enough money to do anything on a boat. So
No, I'm doing a quick search for them, and not much is coming
now I'm
up.
on her Facebook page. It says married Jameson Stone on January 28th, 2021. That can't be right, because I thought she got married at GaryCon in 2022. Oh
No,
wait.
that's a
Oh wait,
remarriage.
that was a
Yeah,
fake wedding. That was a
yeah.
remarriage. Only a year after her real marriage, she had another real marriage. So that's why people don't take that very kindly and don't give her a big break on anything. She was already getting married again.
Look, my fake marriage that closes down the con, so we can be the special peoples.
My fake marriage that is going to close down the bar so nobody can drink anything on Saturday night, and everybody's going to get really growly.
Oh, but come on, man, what's wrong with that?
Anyway, so yeah, I've seen a couple of ads of her, just posing really, looking at the stars. So maybe I think it's about time for her to pop back. It's been a year. It's been a year now. It's time. It was Origins last year when everything hit the fan. So now we just had Origins this year. I mean, it was Origins was just last weekend,
Much
which
earlier.
by the way sucks, because being so close to North Texas, I guess I always wanted to go to Oranges. I'm never going to go there because I'm always out of money and out of breath by the time Oranges comes around. So Gunn says they're doing an RPG cruise. The only way to get it aboard is okay. Get away is throw yourself overboard. Okay, so they're doing an RPG cruise. That makes sense, because she probably has enough followers that she could fill up a small cruise. I mean, they usually give them a block of, like, I don't know, 120,
right.
20, anywhere from 20 to 100 people. So I can understand why she would do that. It makes sense.
All right, I'm gonna before we close up shop, I got something I want to bring up, because this whole thing confuses me, because there are Kickstarters for things for games that you kind of scratch your head about.
Okay.
All right. So, Mike, do you remember this when it was released like I don't know 20 years ago?
Action system. Action system 2.0. So there was a 1.0, and I don't remember this,
It
Eric.
was the first non D&D game to use the open game license. It was
Oh,
it was not needed back then, and it is not needed now. And it's got
mhm.
68 minutes to go, and it didn't even raise
Oh,
half its goal. And I stumbled
oh
across this because
no.
I saw this Kickstarter. I went Action System 2.0. I remember getting that PDF, and I remember looking at it back then, going, "Why?"
Who is
Um,
Neon Necromancer? Who I don't know who this is.
well,
Who is
here
now?
we
Here's a
do
now. I'll tell you. Okay,
Gold Dust
we you know
Games
what?
originally published it, by the way.
We need to do a show on this. We haven't done a show on this before, but I'm going to tell you because I have people all the time like, oh, every time I back a Kickstarter, it fails. Okay, there's warning signs. The red flag. There's red flags. I'm looking at the page and I'm going to show you all. Oh, here's all the red flags I immediately see. When I see a Kickstarter, I go down to the little
Uh,
part where it says
you tell me where
um,
to go.
first Neon Necromancer Games. First created, zero backed.
Oh yeah, that's never
Out.
good.
Out. I'm
That's never
out.
good.
If you have backed no Kickstarters, that means you don't care about the community and you're not invested and you don't care. So that's the first one. Zero backed, I'm out. First created, tough one too, because if this is your first Kickstarter, you have better have some kind of track record of independently publishing stuff without Kickstarter. Or you had to have worked in games for a long time to where I know, oh, your name's Skeeter Green. I know who you are. You worked for
Right.
Necromancer Games for 20 freaking years. And so this is your first Kickstarter. But no, when you see zero backed, run, do not walk, run away from that. That means they don't care about the community and they're not interested in helping you out. They're not interested in what you care about their Kickstarter. So fulfill it, don't fulfill it, they don't care. It's not important. They're not in the community. So that is the hugest
That's
red flag I
huge.
saw right off the bat. Zero backed, first created. I'm not surprised this failed, and it's going to fail miserably. By the way,
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, and the company, by the way, tabletop RPG products for the action system and OSR. But
mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, throw in OSR. Yeah, that's always good. Throw in the OSR word, and then let me see another thing. Okay, then I look at what the backing is. Okay, I just look. Their levels are a little unrealistic. Nobody's going to pay. What's $200 for a book and dice and a tray? That's pretty stupid. But just the biggest thing is I don't know who these people are, and I don't know what this is trying to sell me. So that's the biggest problem with this.
yeah, no,
It's like, okay, think of a really lame show that came out in 2001 that nobody cares about now. Okay, here's two guys, a girl, and a pizza. Remember that show? That was
oh
that
my
was
god, yes.
that was what's his name's big break? The Ryan Reynolds. That was the first thing he was ever in. Okay, so if they announce tomorrow, guess what? We're rebooting Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza, and a pizza joint, and we're going to do it with all new actors, and we're rebooting it. Why would you care? Why would we care? No,
We don't.
nobody would care. Nobody. And so nobody cares about rebooting a game that came out in 2001 that nobody cared about really that much then. Even
Right.
that's terrible business. Terrible business prospect there.
And
I mean,
sorry,
I would like to know more about it. I mean, I feel bad about ripping on Neon Necromancer Games without knowing much about it. I'm just saying they did not do any kind of consultation or think about this before they look. At the very least, they should have backed about 20 Kickstarters just to get an idea about.
just to get an idea how the stuff
Yeah.
plays out, what are the problems
Yes.
that other Kickstarters have.
Mm-hmm.
The action system is a universal class minus and class and level less attribute plus skill plus 3d6 system.
I fell asleep when you said that, or
Yeah,
halfway in the
that's
middle
not
of
what you. It's a meat and potato system without any gameplay gimmick. You know what? That doesn't mean anything.
No, this isn't. No, this. Wow, well, where did you see this? How did you find this? Even
I always do once or twice a week. I do a search for RPGs on Kickstarter.
Mm. Yeah. I should hire myself out as Kickstarter consultant because I could solve a lot of these problems and help. Look, I would have got Frank Mentzer's Kickstarter funded because I would have
Uh,
told him, Frank, you're not going to get $100,000.
no, he wanted
So,
250. He wanted 250.
oh, and I would have said you need to do something reasonable. You need to say $20,000 or something,
Right.
and you need proof of concept. You're going to have to write something on a piece of paper that shows you know what you're doing, and you're going to need art or story. I mean, I would have, I'm sure these are things he probably was told by people, but he didn't listen. And so a lot of these times when these things fail, there's a reason they failed. You know,
Well, I was like, why? Why did you create this Kickstarter? A couple of reasons. Preference. We like the system. Disappointment. We found that newer systems have let us down. And unabashed nostalgia. That's not going to sell a Kickstarter. None of this stuff. And again,
this
they're
is
trying to
very bad. This
fantasy
reminds me
gaming.
of you remember. So someday somebody's going to write a history Kickstarter, and so the first Kickstarters that came out, they would just throw out an idea. I got this idea for this great game about dwarven and something or another. I'm going to call it Dwarf Fight or something. And so everybody like, oh, that sounds cool. And they give them a few, 10, $20. It may have funded, it may not have funded, who knows. But every once in a while, somebody would do something crazy like, hey, I'm going to put you remember this one, Eric? I'm going to put my recipe for potato salad out.
Oh my
Remember the
God.
potato salad guy? And that became some kind of really crazy internet sensation. And the guy made like, I don't know, $500,000. I don't know how much he made, but he made something just ridiculous amount of money for his. And so what did you see for the next year after that? You saw people going, hey, here's my mom's graham cracker recipe. Here's my, but nobody could ever duplicate what the first guy did, right? Because he just happened to get lightning in a bottle.
Right.
And so that was that was I'm looking right here. Here's the infamous potato salad Kickstarter fulfills its final goal. How much did they make? I want to say it's something crazy. Let's see, $50,000 on Kickstarter for basically this guy's potato salad recipe. So anyway, people see this and they got very ambitious with very little ideas. They would like, here's my egg salad recipe. It's just like the Kickstarter or the potato salad guys, and and they would get like $30 because once it was done, it was done. This reminds me of that. It's kind of like, hey, we really don't have we have a kind of an idea here, not a great idea, but give us some money. Maybe this is just, WotC just shot themselves in the foot. Shadow Dark just made $1.3 million. Maybe, maybe God knows this could just take off accidentally. And next thing you know, we could be sitting on 60 grand. This is what this strikes me as. Somebody who really was just kind of hoping this thing would just take off without very much background.
Okay.
So.
Well, here, actually, you know what? Something else we should look at before we say goodnight to people.
Are you going to look at something called Tales of the Valiant or not? Because
that's what it was.
Well, I want to tell you, they're not going to hit. They are not going to hit Shadow Dark numbers.
No, not at all.
Not close. They're going to be within about right now. They're within $365,000 with 2 days to go. They're not going to get four.
They waited too long.
400,000. Well, not only that, Eric, I actually read their Kickstarter. These books are not going to come out to 2024, and Shadow Dark's going to come out in August.
Yeah,
and I think that's going to kill. Look, up till now, God, we could probably do a whole show on this sometime. Cobalt Press and Wolfgang have been he's had the Midas touch. I think the Midas touch failed on this because it came out too late and it's going to be released too late. By the time it's already released, sometime in 2024, people will be playing Shadow Dark for the last year and other games. I don't know how much
we'll be going into the new 5e plus.
Yeah, what's WotC going to have by then? I just think there was a small window here, and I don't think Wolfgang hit it. And I just think that this hurt this project to the tune of, I mean, by any stretch of the imagination, they did okay. They're over $1 million, but when you point to the fact that OSC did 700,000 and Shadow Dark did 1.365, that's got to be a disappointment for him.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's not a disappointment because it's $1 million, but it's a
It's not.
disappointment. And then other
It's not.
people who
It's
did
not the next
far
Pathfinder.
more with far less.
Yeah, it's not the next Pathfinder. That's for
No,
sure. They're not going to be taking that market share.
no. I mean, OSC. We're talking about an OSR. An OSR, pure OSR Kickstarter did 700,000. Nothing with something with no connection to 5e. I mean, Shadow Dark had a 5e connection, which I'm not 100, and they came out at the perfect time, so I'm not surprised they hit 1.3. But OSE came out last year before the OGL stuff went to hell, and they still made 700. This is not. I mean, like I said, by any of the stretch of the imagination, yes, it's a success. By what's come out recently, it doesn't look that great. So that's something that can't be overstated is what an amazing job Kelsey and Shadow Dark did by getting that out when it came out, and by doing the job they did, all the money they made. That's absolutely amazing that they're gonna outperform a Wolfgang Bar Cobalt Press Kickstarter.
Spot on. I mean,
good for them, and good for them too. Kelsey's awesome. Kelsey's good people, so that's awesome for them. I'm so happy for them. So, and we should be seeing Shadow Dark books in August, from what they say. That's her schedule. So
that's exciting.
Yes, very interested in getting my books.
Me too.
So next week, Luau Lu is going to join us, and we will talk all things gaming. We're still looking for a sucker to come on July 5th, and then July 12th, week after that, we'll have Joe Block. So we're
maybe and we still have to schedule the whatchamacallit, the Rob Conley.
Oh my gosh! Well, no, that's going to be a Friday night. Remember?
That's right. Yes.
So that's another thing we have to announce. So Glenn, Dungeons and Discourse, Glenn Hallstrom, legend in the industry, he is going to miss a Friday 2 weeks from now.
I got to double check. I'll have to balance with check. Oh, Gary says he can do 5th.
Gary, who's that? Gary who? I don't know this Gary guy. I have no freaking clue. Well, maybe, you know what? We should do it because Gary is going to have some news on July 5th, I believe. Wink, wink, wink.
Oh, wink, wink.
Yes, some important news that's going to come out in July that we might have to talk about. So, okay, we'll pencil in Gary for July 5th.
We'll pencil you in. Gary, you call my people, and my people will call your people.
But no, the Friday, we're going to have a Friday. We're going to, Glenn handed me the baton last Friday as I horned in on their show, as I often do on Friday nights. He handed me the baton, said, take over for me, Mike. And then he went, take over for me, Mike. Then he collapsed, and it was just really sad. And I grabbed the baton and just ran with it. So anyway, we're going to do that, but we're probably going to have Rob Conley on that night so we can.
Rob doesn't know yet, but he'll be the star.
Yeah, but we've got to get rid of this thing, So we got to get rid of the bag of the receipts of the Russet Lord bag, before it becomes a permanent part of my upstairs office. So,
wow, we wouldn't want that. We wouldn't want that. Oh, this is for a show that we had no guest, we had no subject.
We didn't know what we're doing. No clue. We had no clue.
We're professionals at this, folks. Don't try this at home.
No,
we're not amateurs. We're professionals. We're professionals.
Can't touch this. No, you can't.
We're pro-am. We're professionals that look like amateurs, but we know what we're doing. Even if I'm putting on a bad fake Trump voice to do it, I'm just saying.
Yes. And don't try this at home. Definitely don't try this. You could be hurt. Girls, burn the house down.
Of all ages, yeah. Make sure you talk to your parents before trying to do something.
Oh my gosh! Even if you're 50 years old, talk to your parents.
Oh yeah, talk to your parents because they'll tell you you really don't want to do it. You really want to put yourself out there and embarrass yourself daily? That what you're talking about? Perhaps. Tammy, thank you.
Yes, thanks always, Tammy. Always the wonderful Tammy and Tommy. Although it was just Tammy tonight, so I don't think so.
Oh,
Was it on there? Did you pop in? Okay. Thanks for everybody for
popping.
popping in tonight with it when we don't have a guest. You know, we figure we're just gonna bullshit you guys, and you guys always show up, and it's awesome. We love bouncing off you guys. That's what the fun part is.
See, there's Tom saying stay in school.
Oh, there he is.
All right,
Good,
have a
good
hoot,
job.
don't pollute. I can have we can have all those sayings from our childhood.
Mm-hmm.
We can have the sad alien, sorry, the sad Indian on, crying because they're polluting the environment. Oh God, folks, as always, thank you all. Thank you, Mike. Tomorrow night, if you are on the Discord, we're doing our hangout on Thursday night, 9 p.m. Usually runs to about 10:30, 11 o'clock. It's just it's like one of these live streams, but you get to participate in it. We don't record it. How's that sound? Friday's another live stream at 8 p.m. Saturday is Gamers Health at 8 p.m. And other than that, be safe, be well, God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. Back again tomorrow with some more random shite that's going on in the industry. What's better than random shite?
Later, Gators.